Right, it's 1 o'clock, so let's get started. Hello everyone, I'm Chris Grant from Passle, and I'm going to be talking today a little bit about getting your experts to engage with creating content, and also the knock-on benefit of actually getting them to create content that actually helps them to engage with social media. So I'm just going to plow straight in because I've got quite a lot to go through and not a lot of time. So I think the first thing to be aware of, I know we've got a lot of people from professional services firms on the line at the moment. We've got some people from other organisations as well. So who should be involved in content creation? Well, ideally, you want to get your experts involved, obviously, your leadership team, if you can do that, and of course, if possible, and if you have such a thing, your salespeople as well. Because all of these people are the people that have direct customer interaction, and they're the people that know the questions that your customers, your clients are always asking. So first thing, a little bit of bad news. There are essentially in every kind of organisation, you've got three kinds of people. You've got what I like to call the me first people. They're the people who will adopt a new technology, get excited about new initiatives, generally get involved with everything, and they want to be the first people that want to be involved. You've got a substantial amount of what we call me toos. They're the people who see somebody else doing something or see something that's come in, and they want to do it as well. They want to get involved. And finally, what we've got is the not me, the never, I'm never ever going to engage with this people. So I like to think that we don't worry too much about them, and we actually concentrate on these first kinds of people. So the first thing I think that's important is that we need to actually start speaking the language that that these people actually understand. Most experts in whatever field, be it a lawyer, an accountant, management consultants, don't really have any interest in things like bounce rate, qualified leads, conversion rate analysis, and if we talk to them in these terms, it's almost the same as if they started talking to us in terms of all the jargon that they use in their daily life. So we get rid of the marketing jargon and we start actually trying to speak their language. So in terms of experts, you know, they want to work on high profile projects. They want to be perceived as experts, perceived as thought leaders. Your leaders, perhaps, you know, your chief exec wants a knighthood in the end, and he wants to boost his profile in order to do that. But things like interviews in the press, being quoted, and just feeling that they're a real authority in their field is a very powerful thing. Salespeople are a little bit easier. They want more money and they want more customers, and we need to start talking to them about content in those terms rather than in the terms that we would normally talk about in marketing. So the first thing we need to do once we started speaking their language is actually look to take away the worry. I think a lot of busy experts would perhaps never admit it to you, but they worry a lot about producing content, about writing something. They worry about being boring, and we work with lots and lots of organisations where we've got busy experts who are writing content. And normally when I do a one-on-one call with people about, you know, their worries and their struggles, actually, I'm worried about being boring is pretty much the #1 issue that we have. And just put this into perspective, the sort of way to actually talk around this. So take this post, for example. This is a post by Mr. David Key, and he's talking about changing the quality focus in manufacturing. Now, with all due respect to David, to me, this is something that I would view as being quite boring. It's not in my field. It's not something I'm interested in. It may be something I need to be aware of. But if you look at the share numbers, he's had 57 shares, and actually, when he put it on the LinkedIn group where people are actually interested in the quality focus in manufacturing, you can see you got lots and lots of comments, lots and lots of feedback. So I think the first thing is to sort of reassure people about being boring is really that if it's something that your audience is interested in, be it quality focus in manufacturing, some obscure aspect of law, something that your audience is interested in, that's not boring to them. And I think this is something that we need to make sure our experts are aware of, that they don't need to write about cats falling into goldfish bowls or anything funny. They just need to talk about their area of expertise and how they help their clients. The second worry we tend to find is I'm worried about getting it wrong. I think if you just go up to somebody and say, we need you to write a piece of content about such and such, it can be very difficult for them because they don't want to say the wrong thing, they don't want their peers to think they're stupid. So my advice here is actually start thinking about making a plan and actually sharing it with them. So in this case, we've actually got a slide that we use with clients, which is essentially, what do we talk about? What's the focus of your content? And this helps you to build, excuse me, build a little bit of a safety net so that your experts actually know there's 4 or 5 key topics that you as an organization talk about. They don't have to go outside them. You can give them the option to do that. But actually doing this sort of thing and having a nice structure in place, simple structure I would stress, but having a nice structure in place and a few guidelines can actually help them not worry too much about getting it wrong. I think the final big worry that I come across is this whole concept of the online trolls that all our experts probably read about. I think a lot of them don't engage or haven't engaged with online and social, and they hear stories about people getting abuse on Twitter, about rude comments written on posts. But I think here the really important thing to, again, hammer home to them is actually if they're talking about their niche area of expertise and what they do and what they know about, it's very, very unlikely that anybody's actually going to start saying anything particularly negative. And I think it's really important to just reassure them that actually a lot of the stories they read about online trolls and abuse actually generally pertain to footballers and people in the mainstream. So actually, if you're an accountant writing about a deep and obscure area of tax, then something like this is really never going to come up. Take away the obstacles. I think a lot of organizations have obstacles that are in the way of content creation. Probably they were created to help content creation. For example, the complex and difficult approval process, where something could be written, it goes through compliance, it goes through marketing, and 3 weeks later it comes back to the person that originally wrote it with an instruction that they can put it live. And actually at this point, you know, you've lost all engagement because they've written something, they're excited about it, and they've been unable to seize the moment. And I think also that we do also see a lot of problem with a restrictive social media policy. I know that in a lot of fields, especially sort of law, you have to be very careful about what you say. But I think actually building that plan that I was talking about earlier can really help to remove the restrictive social media policy and actually encourage people to be themselves and engage with the content process. So a little bit on how to get them really nicely engaged, and I'm going to do this by way of a little bit of an example. So this is a story about a firm of accountants. They had a few ideas about what they wanted to do, but basically they wanted to become more visible online. They wanted to be seen as the go-to firm, the go-to experts in their field, and above all, to do this, they wanted to create more content. As you can see, their business as usual graph, bearing in mind there are quite a lot of them, they were writing just 3 to 4 blog posts a month. This little spike in May was because their annual bonus had a little bit of a link to producing a couple of blog posts over the course of the year. So coming up to bonus time, the ones that hadn't written anything finally decided they ought to do something, and so they went up to 6 posts and then went back down again. So my first real tip here is to make it easy. We've talked a little bit about removing the obstacles and the shackles and the worries, but I think it's also important to think about creative ways of getting the information out of your experts. So be it meeting someone for breakfast and asking their opinions on some of the key things that are happening in their particular field, and then writing it up yourself. That can be very useful. Talking heads, videos, videoing their presentations, just finding ways to get them to actually talk to you, and you could potentially write up the content. The other thing is this concept of commentary, opinion, and insights, which is instead of asking them to write a long and lengthy piece, actually asking them to just give a couple of comments, an opinion, an insight on what's going on. In our example, we made it easy for our accountants by giving them a tool that allowed them to comment on things that they're reading in the news. We also made it a little bit media rich so that they can actually add tweets and do something a little bit more simply. But just doing this actually boosted their productivity, and you can see by the slope of this graph that suddenly making it easy actually had a very, very positive effect on our accountants who'd essentially done nothing for the rest of the year. Incentives. Incentives can be really, really important, and I think this is where making it about them and speaking their language can be very, very powerful. But it's also about actually asking them for commitment rather than telling them we need you to do 6 blog posts a month. Actually asking them what they're comfortable with doing. In our accountant's case, we actually used a bit of a questionnaire. This is a stylized version, but we actually used a bit of a questionnaire, asking them about their goals and what they wanted to do, and asking them how they were going to achieve this. The other side of the incentive process is actually there's a few things you can do in terms of gamifying the process. So making it competitive can be very, very powerful. Actually, busy experts tend to be very competitive anyway. They want to be the top people in their field. So actually gamifying it can be very, very powerful. Making it a team game, actually getting them to work together as a team, can be really, really good as well. And I think the analogy here is it's the difference between, if you can imagine going to the gym on your own on a Monday night, it's quite difficult to do, and quite often you won't do it after about the 1st of February, having had all the best intentions. But if you're playing, for example, five-a-side football with a load of your friends, then you're going to turn up, I think, and that's where making it a team game can be really powerful. And I think also in terms of incentives, I think we saw what happened when we incentivized the accountants with a clause or part of their annual bonus. Actually think about short-term incentives, be it a weekly prize, a monthly prize, something like that, but something that's achievable in the short term. And first of my completely random pictures, just to explain this, the reason that short-term incentives are very powerful with humans is that, unlike Mr. Alligator on the screen here, who he needs to eat perhaps every couple of months, he can go 3 to 6 months without eating. Humans, we need to eat every day, and we need to eat quite a lot of times in a day, and that's where where we're incentivized by short-term things, where the thought of winning a dinner out at the end of the week is much, much more powerful than X thousand pounds in 12 months' time. The effect of incentivizing on our accountants, you can see here, was that we made it easy, and then we've incentivized them, and their blogging behavior has pretty much gone through the roof. They're really, really engaged. They're producing lots of content at this stage. I think the final piece of the puzzle in terms of actually getting them to engage with the process is to give them feedback. I think I see a lot of examples where a busy expert in whatever field has written a blog post or a news piece for the company website, and they've done it once, and they get absolutely no feedback at all. And if you imagine when you go 10-pin bowling, hence the picture on the screen, if you imagine you roll your ball and you get very excited about getting a strike or a spare, but a great big screen comes down, and in fact you don't get any feedback at all, just imagine how often you'd be likely to go back and go 10-pin bowling again. It's one of those things that feedback is really, really powerful. And I think a great example of feedback is actually, if anyone uses TripAdvisor, this is an email I got from TripAdvisor recently. It told me how many reviews I'd done, it told me how many people have read it, it told me I've got helpful votes, it slightly gamified the process by giving it points and levels, it's told me where my readers are from, and I think also importantly it's given me lots and lots of options to go back and do it again. So I think if you can get one of your experts to write a post and you can go back and tell them, 60 people read your blog post, 2 of them have contacted the firm, they're going to actually do it again rather than just think of it as some annoyance that is of no use to them. And this final graph actually shows the long-term behavior. So what we've got is their business as usual, the little spike for the annual bonus, Then we've got the gamification part. We actually ran a competition for 7 weeks to form a habit and to actually get them into the habit of doing it regularly. And you can see they had a colossal spike, but actually when it settled down, you've got a nice even line running along with a bit of a dip for Christmas and New Year. And being that they're accountants, there's a big spike for the budget. But essentially what they've done is they've gone from producing 2 blog posts a month between them to actually doing around about 40. My little point I made at the beginning about getting experts to engage with social channels, I think the important thing here is if you want your experts to engage with social, I think it's really important to get them to actually start creating content first, because it's much easier and it's much more fulfilling to actually share your own blog post. You know, I'm going to share my blog post to LinkedIn. I might put it on Google Plus if anyone's listening there. If it's relevant, I'll put it on Facebook or I'll put it on Twitter. But because it's my post, I'm quite proud to put it there, rather than being encouraged to share the latest press release for the firm or some article about, you know, muffins that were donated by a client. It's also important with the not me people, the people that would never engage with the content process. They're not going to write, but they can share, and you can get a very beneficial network effect from actually encouraging people to share their colleagues' posts. So in this illustration, you know, I've shared a post, my colleagues have then shared that post, and then their friends and their colleagues have also shared that post, and suddenly I've got a lot more visibility. You can really help this by facilitating and encouraging online sharing, and in this example this is an imaginary company, but you can see here I've created a digest of all the blog posts that imaginary company have created in a week, and I've created an internal email that I can send round, and we've got all the LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus links, and all people within the team have to do is click on those links and they can instantly share their colleagues' content. So actually it's a great way of actually getting the people that would never engage with content creation to share it. It's also great for employee advocacy. It makes you look like a company that are really excited about working, or all your employees are really excited about working for you. So just wrapping up, because I want to stick to 15 minutes, because obviously everyone wants to enjoy their lunch break or do other things. Top tips and takeaways from today. Speak their language, get rid of the marketing jargon, throw it out, and actually start thinking in terms of what it means to them and how it can help them. Trust your team. I think that there's got to be an element of trust. Remove the obstacles to content creation, be it you know, the social media policy, be it in fact not having a plan, whatever it is, try and remove those obstacles, the lengthy approval process. Take away the worry. Reassure them that actually if they write for their audience, they're not going to be boring, they're not going to get bad comments. Make it easy for them, find a way, whether it's sitting down and interviewing them, whether it's asking their opinion, whether it's giving them a piece of software that helps. Incentivize, and again, it doesn't have to be a massive incentive, just enough to keep them interested and give them a little bit of a short-term goal to go for. Gamification and teamwork, and I suppose finally on that, feedback. Give them lots and lots of feedback. Tell them if you can who's reading their blog posts, where people are clicking from their blog posts, and just generally make them feel good about the piece of content they've created. And then finally, for the rest of the company, facilitate sharing. So once you've got a team of experts that are actually engaged, creating content, and starting to take those baby steps, facilitate sharing throughout your organization, because it just boosts the numbers. It means more people are going to be reading what your experts have put together, and it means that they're going to be getting even more feedback and an even more positive response. So that's it. I've run a little bit over my 15 minutes, so I apologize for that. If anyone does have any questions, then do get in touch with me on Twitter. That's @chrisg_Passle, or pop me an email, chrisg@passle.net. And we're going to put the recording of this webinar up onto YouTube, and we'll send you all the links in case you enjoyed it so much that you want to watch it again. But basically, thank you very much all for listening, and have a good rest of the day.